opposed? And that's carried. You also have the minutes of our last regular meeting from May the 11th. Does anyone have any questions or concerns? Okay, we're looking for a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Tom will make that motion.
Motion by Tom, seconder.
Ron will second.
Second by Ron. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Business arising from the minutes of our last meeting. There were 4 items. Or 4 questions, inquiries. There is the responses here as prepared by the administration. Does anyone have any questions in regards to these 4 items? Seeing none, looking, moving on to reports. City manager departmental overview. Diana's been tied up with other things. Her day went haywire today, and she doesn't have a report as per se. Diana, do you have anything that you would like to just add to that?
No, I will have the detailed departmental overview for the next meeting. I apologize.
Okay. Council committee reports. I'm just going to go by who's on my screen here first. Ron, do you have anything?
Yeah. We did a Zoom meeting with the chamber on the 22nd of May. They're in some, still trying to figure things out with how we're gonna make things work, but we're working on Canada Day, some sort of Canada Day celebrations. Some of the ideas are around kind of a drive-in movie type of a setting with some sort of maybe some concert entertainment and then fireworks. And then they're looking into how we can still carry on with the golf tournament and of course abiding by all of the reopen regulations and whatnot. And if everything's okayed by the city and that type of thing. So still chipping away at items with the chamber, and everyone's trying to figure out ways to keep things moving.
Okay.
Ron, could I comment that if anyone has any questions about anything to do with Canada Day, they can let us know. I know we've had the conversation with a number of other municipalities. They're also looking at ways, and some already have the plans in place for how they would accommodate a physically distanced fireworks show. So we can probably get that information from them.
Okay, I'll get Trevor to get in touch with you.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Anything else there, Ron?
No, that's kind of it. Like I say, just trying to navigate through the COVID deal and making sure everyone's safe and support the businesses.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Conrad, do you have anything?
I guess, yeah, a couple weeks ago we had our annual rec board meeting where we divvied up some money for the spring grant application. So I think it was maybe around 8 different groups we gave a little over $20,000 to. A lot of that may be pending, depending if their events are going to carry through due to some of the restrictions placed on by the province and COVID, but we'll see what happens. That was it.
Okay, thanks, Conrad. Any questions for Conrad on that?
I do have one comment.
One comment, Conrad, maybe you could comment on the RM's request.
About their response?
What the request to come back to the table together?
Well, yeah, but they were supposed to show up at that meeting when we did it and nobody did. So they talked about in 2021, perhaps joining resources again where they take their allotment from the Sask lotteries and pool it with ours like it used to be in the past, and we divide it up to applicants that put forward. So I think what they were saying is they're not getting any applicants, so they have to turn back the money.
I think there's a deadline that we would need to let Sask Lotteries know if we're wanting to pool it together, so.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's possibly passed or if we'll get any leeway
Yeah.
with the pandemic. I want to say it was possibly in February. But if we're wanting to look into it, we should probably do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, but I think that was the point. Gina was supposed to participate in our Zoom meeting and she didn't check in, so we don't know. We had it on the agenda. So I don't know, maybe Diana, you could reach out to her and ask what their council wishing to do and find out what the deadline is.
Yeah, we can I'll send her an inquiry tomorrow.
Because I think at our last discussion, I thought it was working good with the RM having their own applications.
I don't know. They're the ones that requested that they pull apart so they can allocate their own funding to the groups that apply for them. And we've asked them in the past where they allocated their funding to, and you know, just so we don't double up. Like, we get a lot of RM groups that are applying for city grants, and they've never come back to us and responded. So we've asked them as last February when we met with the recreation grant.
Yeah, when we met with the recreation group, they weren't necessarily mentioning that they wanted to go back with doing it together, but they were looking for more communication so that we could provide them with the information of who we awarded the grants to. Definitely ease of administration wise, if there was a way to do it and have both RM and city reps at the table, it probably makes sense to try to do it together, especially if they're turning money away because they're not getting applicants.
Okay.
It's difficult for the city grant group to make decisions about really good projects, but probably dominated by RM users. And we don't get money for those citizens. So it's puts us in a bind. I think every year there's some cases. We understand when people show up, we don't ask where they live, but when it's prime 4-H or equestrian things, there aren't that many city users that would have horses in the backyard. So it just makes more sense if we got everybody together. So I always feel uncomfortable giving the resources that are dedicated to the city of Meadow Lake to other places, including the RM or wherever.
So just a question, does for example, Dorntosh or Rapid View, are they able to, they don't have their own,
Dorntosh does.
Dorntosh has their own rec?
Well, they have their own allocation. Rapid Views incorporated in with the RM.
Okay.
So their funding would per capita would go to the RM.
And in the past, the archery club, which is probably 70% Meadow Lake kids, the city of Meadow Lake's participants, but it's out in Rapid View. So it's one of those who should they apply to is a complicated question, and it's so clean if we're all sitting together. And that's just one example that comes to mind.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, anything else there, Conrad?
No, that was it.
Okay, Richard?
No, I have nothing.
Okay, Glenn?
Waste management meets on Thursday, and then the rec board was already mentioned. That's all.
Okay, thanks. Tom?
We had a Lakeland Library Board meeting on Wednesday, the 20th. And really, there was a number of things. One was they were actually working on a reopen plan. So for the libraries, when we get permission from the province to open, right now, the indication is in phase 4, which we're not quite sure of a date, but there is some potential that might get moved up a bit. So depending on some discussions. The other thing we're putting together a bit of a financial plan for the municipalities, just so if any of the municipalities are asking about, because of the levies and stuff like that, that we have a good plan both for opening, and there is certainly going to be some costs associated with that when we look at what the rules might be. So anyway, we're putting that together. We'll be able to get a copy of it for the city. Any of the municipalities that are going to be asking will be able to access it.
Okay, sounds good, Tom.
Tom, did you lay off anybody?
Oh, just about, I'd say 95% of the staff were laid off, Glenn. As of all of the libraries closed, except there's a bit of some still left in the North Battleford Library that are providing some digital and online services for the whole region. But I'd say 95% were laid off. I think as of, I think it's April 9th was the date. So this would be, there's probably 30, 40 different libraries in the region. So some of them are quite small. Ours would be probably the second or third biggest after Battleford and Lloyd.
So there would be budget savings.
There would be some, yes, there is. And that we want to make sure that if the municipalities are asking how much is saved, and the discussion would be, a lot of the municipalities have already paid the levy, and it's actually mandated under the act that they have to. So but the one thing they do have is the opportunity to carry money forward in the budget. So depending on some of the discussion might be, okay, yeah, this is what we were underspent last year. We can take that forward and maybe have a discussion forward in 2021 even, so.
Thank you.
Good. Anything else, Tom?
No, that was it.
Okay, thank you. Curtis?
No, just the rec board, and I think Conrad covered that very well, so.
Okay, thank you. For myself, just weekly phone conferences with city mayors on Tuesdays, and then we follow that up on Tuesday afternoon with a phone conference with Minister Carr from Government Relations. Nothing really new. This past weekend, the numbers were really low. Weekend before, numbers were really high. So other than that, I'll find out some more information tomorrow. Long-term care, we had an enriched housing meeting on Thursday, I believe it was, Diana, Wednesday or Thursday? Thursday. And couple of the issues that were brought up were there's an IT allotment of $500,000 that the SHA was supposed to clarify why that just magically appeared. Again, we voiced our opinion that it should not be included with furniture and fixtures. So basically, an extra $500,000 from 2.7 to 3.2 million would be the furniture and fixtures plus our local 10% share. They are going back to the drawing board to see what they can do about that. And they're going to provide a list to us in the upcoming probably 2 weeks with what that IT is looking for. So we've also drafted, or the RM has drafted a letter. I was chatting with Diana today. The city is going to sign that off as well, citing our concerns about that. There was the letter as well was correspondence to the enriched housing people. The province has decided, or the health authority has decided, that they're not going to draft a letter and let the people know what's going on, that there will be no enriched housing in the new facility. It's just a level 4 and 5. That's what the RM letter was drafted and sent it to Diana today, and we had chatted about that, signing it off, saying that if the health authority isn't going to let them know, they believe and we believe that we have a right to let the residents know what's going to be happening, and we're going to present that to the health authority and see where that goes. We have a meeting on, or I have a meeting on Wednesday with the superintendent of the RCMP in regards to new staff sergeant. We're just working on some information. I have been in contact with one, actually Ryan Howe, at our previous meeting. I haven't chatted to him since we found out there's a possibility that there's a candidate that they're looking to bring into Meadow Lake. So that's why Diana and I are going to be meeting with superintendent and one of his sidekicks and Tim on Wednesday. So we'll let everyone know how that comes about. We have some questions to ask. Other than that, that's about it. Oops. All right. I guess we need to move the reports. Have a motion to remove or to move the council committee reports.
I don't believe we normally get a motion for this.
Okay, sorry.
I think we just moved to correspondence.
Okay, move into correspondence. We have
I will-
2 items.
I'll move
My
the
apologies.
correspondence.
We have 2 items on correspondence. Meadow Lake Interagency has a list of food resources in Meadow Lake, being kept up to date as much as possible, and possibility of changes. Just a little information there. As well, we have a letter from the Meadow Lake Housing Authority looking to possibly set up a letters against loneliness, and just some information there. I don't think there's any decisions that we have to make, so just looking for a motion to receive the correspondence.
Curtis can move that.
Second.
I'll second that, Ron.
Okay, second by Ron. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. All right, moving on to council inquiries. This is where we have the opportunity to ask questions of administration, pass on bouquets or whatever. Does anyone have anything to bring up? I'll just go through the list again. Curtis, do you have anything?
No,
Tom?
Just that, then it's sort of a minor thing, but I had a couple different people ask me about the street sweeping, which is fine. I see it's going on, but the way it's sort of done, like when you look at it, they never get within about 18 inches of the edge of the road, the curb, which is usually full of leaves and everything else. So you clean the street off, but that area just still looks sort of a mess. So I was just wondering if there's some logistical thing that the reason there maybe our guys are trained to do it that way, or it was just sort of happened?
I
can
kind of thought the
definitely ask
same.
a question of Public Works, but I don't have an answer for.
Yeah, okay, not a problem. It was just sort of tweaked my interest as well, because I've been noticing it ever since I got asked about it. And it's fairly common. It seems like it's about 18 inches.
But I seen that too on my crescent where they did the first pass, and then a week and a half later came and did the second pass up against the curb. And
Oh,
they
okay.
just did that today.
The
So,
second,
yeah, so the
Oh,
first
maybe-
time they were quite a ways away, trying to get everything, that was on the road.
yeah.
And the second pass happened today where they were up against the curb.
So that could be the protocol or whatever. That's the
Possibly, yeah.
process. Yeah. Yeah, that might answer the question right there. It's the second pass that gets it. But anyway, it was just, the question was asked of me a couple times.
Okay. Okay, anything else, Tom?
No, that's it.
Okay, so Diana will check in with Public Works and she'll report back. Glenn? Okay, Richard?
I have a few items. I was wondering if the administration could put in the next newsletter with the water bills, just a statement that the traffic bylaw does not allow for the operation of ATVs within the city limits.
Yes, we can.
And with the Voyant update that reminds us every week about the which waste container to put out in the street. I'm wondering if we could also put in part in with that says that the containers are supposed to be stored behind the property line and not left just out behind the curb.
I will ask those who are more schooled in giving out buoyant alerts than me, but I will follow up once I have an answer.
Okay, and no heavy truck sign on 9th Avenue by the museum turnoff. I think we removed that a year or two ago, but the 4x4 posts are still sticking up in the ditch there. We should probably remove them maybe.
That is on the work plan to be done this year.
Okay, and then the final thing, the smell of the lagoon doesn't seem to be getting any better. And I'm wondering if we could get somebody from Water Corp or some other expert engineer to come and give us some advice on how to mitigate the smell. I did take a look at the area there, and it does seem like the aeration ponds are in need of some maintenance and maybe some dredging.
Yeah, I can follow up with the Sask Water employees and see. I know we had set up a schedule when we did dredging a number of years ago as to what, how often it would be done. But I will follow up with them and see if they have any advice or if it's something that's on the books for 2021.
Oh, I have.
Okay, thanks, Richard. Conrad? Conrad, do you have anything?
No, nothing.
Ron?
Nope, nothing here.
Nothing at all. All right. Thank you for that. Moving on. We have one item under old business. This has been discussed previously, just in previous meetings, pardon me.
May 11th. is it?
Sorry?
May 11th, I think it said.
Yeah, reviewed again May 11th.
Yeah.
So this followed up a discussion with kind of in regards to our budget process last fall. Then there was some more discussion kind of in tune with the COVID-19 and stuff like that. So at our last meeting, we discussed it quite a bit. So we're just looking to bring it to the table here for to bring it along. Does anyone like to bring this to the table?
I'll move that bylaw number 5, 2020, a tax rate bylaw be introduced and read a first time.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
I'll second it, Richard.
Second by Richard. Connor, do you have anything?
No,
Nope. Richard?
No,
Okay, all in favor of bringing it to be read the first time. Anyone opposed? And that's carried. Now, we have the ability to give it all 3 readings at this meeting as long as we have unanimous approval. Sorry.
Move it second.
We move for the second reading and then the
Yeah.
third, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you would give it second reading and then you need a unanimous vote in agreement to take it to the first,
take it to
third
the
reading
third.
at the same meeting.
Okay, you have someone that would like to bring this for the second reading?
I'll move it again, that bylaw number 5, 2020, tax rate bylaw be introduced and read a second time.
Okay, you have a seconder,
I'll second it.
second by Glenn. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. So if we wish to give it third reading tonight, first of all, we have to bring it to the third reading, and then it has to be a unanimous approval.
I'll make the motion to move it to third reading.
Okay, thanks, Curtis.
I'll second it.
Second by Richard. All in favor? Is there anyone opposed? That's carried.
And I'll move that bylaw number 5, 2020, a tax rate bylaw be read a third time.
Did you say be read a third time and adopted?
Sounds good.
Okay, that's what I thought you said. Do we have a seconder for that?
Tom can second it. Yeah.
Second by Tom. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, and this one here, if you could just hold your hand up and I'll swing through here. Anyone opposed? And that is carried. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to new business. Looking to receive the April 2020 accounts payable.
I'll move that the April 2020 accounts payable be approved as presented.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that, please?
I'll second that.
Second by Ron. Richard, do you have any questions? Anything
Nope.
to add? No. Ron,
Nope.
anyone else have any questions?
Just one on a Royal Bank Visa. What's games from Flag House? What games did we buy?
Sorry, I would have to look into answer
Yeah.
that question.
No, yeah.
Was it not something for the pool, Diana? And I think it was ordered prior to the COVID stuff, if I remember.
If I'm remembering correctly, it was supplies from the pool, but I will get an answer out to council tomorrow.
Okay. If I just remembering from signing the check, I think it was something to do with the pool that was ordered previous to the COVID thing. So, but Diana will confirm that with an email. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, all in favor of receiving the April 2020 accounts payable? Anyone opposed? And that's carried. All right, moving on to the April 2020 financial statements. Looking for a motion to receive the financials.
Glenn will.
Motion by Glenn to receive the financials for April 2020. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second
Tom,
it.
a second. Yeah.
Okay, second by Tom. Glenn, do you have any questions?
No,
There's no. Tom, do you have any questions to bring?
No, I don't, Connor. None.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions or concerns with any of the items on here? Nope. Seeing none, all in favor of receiving the 2020 financials for April? Anyone opposed? Okay, that is carried. All right, moving on to, pardon me, Municipal Economic Enhancement Program. This was some monies that the province announced, $150 million municipal funding program to help communities recover from the impacts of COVID-19 and stimulate the economy. The funding program has one of the broadest eligibility criteria of any provincial or federal grant program, with 14 eligible project criteria. The amount that Meadow Lake has been granted is just over $768,000 to be spent between now and March 31st, 2022. An application must be submitted by July with a council resolution supporting the city's selected project or projects. Council may use these funds to do any of the following. I'm not going to go through and read. So basically, it's pretty wide open what we can apply for. Administration has went through and has some scenarios with budget items. Some of the budget items that were removed, if we're looking to do additional paving, looking to buy new equipment. There's some quotes on street sweeper and a couple of other things in there. I think we're just looking for a discussion for right now. Am I right, Diana? And then we can, once we sit down and decide where we're going, what we want to look at short term, or what we want to look at including into the budget in the fall process, just some different options. So they administration is just.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
We tried to put together a list. It's not exhaustive by any means, but we sent out the criteria and we submitted it, the things that we thought that could be accomplished that had to be removed from the 2020 budget discussions. There's some new proposals in there. And then there's some different options for paving, and we're looking more for narrowing down of the scope of this. And then we would hopefully be able to bring some where the information is a little bit lacking, some firmer information to the first meeting in June, in order to get the council resolution we need in order to submit the application for the project or projects we would like to apply the money to.
Okay, so Diane, would you like us to chat about this tonight? Just throw it open and discuss the items that you brought forward and see if there's any other ones that we maybe have missed that we would like to include in some of the pre-work?
Yeah, and then if there's any short listings or sort of any ideas that people have as to what they'd like to see, I think we're hoping to see the list narrowed a little bit out of tonight, so that if there's more information, then it's more information on fewer projects that we're trying to provide. It was a significant amount of work in a short turnaround time to try and get the options put together. So
yeah, understandable. I'm not sure what the best way. Shall we just go through the counselors and see if they have any thoughts or anything that they would like to add on to this, and then we can discuss it at the end? Does that sound good?
Sure.
Okay, I'm just gonna go through the list. Is that okay, Diana, if we just kind of brainstorm a little bit with?
yeah, so you're going to go through and you're going to see if any members of council have any additions that aren't on the list, and then you'll have a discussion about where you'd like to see the list going.
Yep, like a discussion at the end, going through like your utilities, for example, 3rd Avenue West sanitary sewer relining, stuff like that. So if we get new items from council, and then after we go through everyone, then we can maybe just go through the list and kind of prioritize. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, I think that works.
Okay, I'm just gonna go through the list of council here. Curtis, do you have anything that you would like to see added to this?
No, I think we'll easily spend the money on the things that are listed there, for sure. So nothing new.
Okay, just keep in mind that this does go, it exhausts in 2022, so.
Oh,
could be
yes,
s-
okay.
Yeah, could be something that we could as well discuss at budget time in the fall.
No, I
No?
don't know that that's actually the case, Mayor. I think we have to apply for our money with the projects we're gonna spend it on in July.
Okay, by July, but we don't have to do it until 2022.
Correct, you have until the end
Ah,
of the
okay.
2022 to complete the projects, but you have to figure out what you're spending the money on when you apply.
Okay, sorry, my apology. Okay, so Chris, change your mind?
Nope, still good.
Okay, Tom, do you have anything?
Actually, I was gonna maybe mention one thing, and it's sort of been front and center here in the last little while, is we had originally had the resurfacing of the walking path in Lions Park. I think we had discussed it at our budget item and then moved it back to 2021 or 2022. And I think, you know, with the amount of use that I've seen it get, it seemed to have been getting, and its value to the community, it's been front and center, I think. So if it's in fairly tough shape in a few things, I know we were talked about doing some repairs this year. I don't think that's happened, but I wouldn't mind seeing it go back on the list. I think originally it was 75,000.
Yes, we did have 75,000 to resurface. The walking path was a discussion item for the 2020 budget. The reason we didn't include it on this list was simply because we didn't have the information as to what the repairs would take. When they went back and it was removed from discussion for 2020, some of the concerns were the routes that are coming through the walking path in some locations, and those were the repairs and the fixes they were going to work on this year. So my recommendation would be, if council would like to see that on the list, then to leave a placeholder for that repair work as well, and we can hopefully come back to the meeting in June with a better idea of what that would cost. The 75,000 was to resurface the walking path. It didn't include the repairs for the routes and stuff like that.
Okay,
Yep. Anything else, Tom?
no, that was it.
No. Glenn?
I would like to see it used across the board, some balance. I would like to see the citizens gain something, and by that I mean, I'm not sure a street sweeper gets people excited, a walking path, or would the citizens would see a benefit. I like that idea of giving them a break, maybe on some long-term care facility funding, either shorten it up the commitment or give them a year's off. So some balance across the board, that they benefit and they have a reason, something that creates employment for the people of Saskatchewan, so that, you know, the $700,000 does benefit the community in as many ways as possible, not just all in paving, although it's hard to argue with some of it going toward paving when you drive around. So the balance and a wide scope, and touch as many different interest groups and citizens as we can.
Okay. Thanks, Glenn. Richard?
Well, I think the statement that there's very few grants available that cover equipment, I think I'd be more prone to favor the equipment side of it. Also, I was just wondering, can we not just approve the master project list with all the projects on it and submit it to the government, and then whittle it down later? Or do we have to have the exact amount for the application going to the province?
I believe you have to have it within the realm of the granting amount. I don't think we could submit a $3 million list and say we're gonna use it on these things. I think it would have to be in the range of the grant, but we can ask the question. This, of course, is I think it's actually the repurposing of an old program from many years ago, but they've redone the criteria. So we might have an opportunity to ask that question if we don't need to whittle it down, if we can just submit a larger scope project list and use it for what we want.
Okay, and I had just a question about the pavement patches. I noticed we were spending some money for the excavation for the service lines to 110 9th Avenue East. I thought that was a private development. I'm not sure why we would be paying for the pavement costs there. And also the Sask Energy cuts, usually in the past, at least when I was at the city, the Sask Energy or Sask Power had to pay for pavement repairs when they did their own line repairs on the street.
I can comment to that. There is a column, I believe it maybe did not fit on this report, that indicated on some of those utility patches where cost shares were happening, and what the degree of the cost share was.
Okay. So just to clarify, Richard, sorry, a Sask Energy digs. So are you saying that when they put in a Sask Energy line to a home or business, they're the ones that have to pay for it?
That's the way it used to be. If they have to cut into our streets to fix one of their lines or put in a line, they have to pay for the repairs to the pavement. Maybe it's changed, I don't know.
But is it not like for example, if it's going into a new home build, is it not the new home build responsibility to pay for that? Diana, can you answer that?
I don't have a firm answer and I would not want to hazard to guess, so I can get an answer out to you, but I don't have.
Okay. Okay, anything else, Richard?
I don't think so. I don't know about the rest of council, but I'm prepared to make up a list of the items that I think would fit into the dollar amount and then just submit it and then compare with each other and then go from there maybe.
Okay. Well, I think what we'll do is we'll go through everyone and then we'll just go through and have a quick discussion on the items that administration has brought forward here, and then we can kind of give it a soft yes or a soft no before the July deadline, if that's all right.
Yeah, it's
But
too
if you
bad
want-
that it's just too bad that they're sort of rushing us to make this decision, but that's the way it is.
We have till July.
We have till July, but if we want to accomplish some of this stuff this year, for instance, if we wanted to do any paving with our paving crew in town, then we need a decision before July on that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why we're kind of looking to have this all nailed down at our next meeting in June. Is that correct, Diana?
That is the purpose before sort of speeding up the deadline, yes. And maybe there is some validity to Councillor Levesque's comment about everybody submitting their top list and seeing where there's a crossover and what we can do to make up for it. But definitely we are hoping to sort of have it firmed out earlier in June rather than July.
Okay, well, with that, does everyone want to put together a list rather than going through it right now, or we can go through it now and then submit a list?
I think that this practice of if there's anything that's not included that they would like to see included would be useful still.
Okay. Okay.
I would like to see some kind of figure in there for the lagoon aeration ponds, if there is anything available, like 50,000 or something for.
We can definitely
would
look
be-
into it. I believe when we did dredging a number of years ago, it was a couple $100,000, but we can get something added and get council that information prior to the meeting in June.
Yeah, the couple 100,000, I think that covered the large reservoirs. This would just involve the aeration ponds themselves.
Okay, Conrad, do you have anything?
No, I think like Councillor Winkler had said, I'd like to a good balance. If I had to look at priorities, I mean, we got capital stuff that we're buying this year. Why not get the money now for, there's 4 projects there. I like the idea of the long-term care levy being waived. I mean, there was a lot of people that struggled probably throughout this COVID crisis so far. I mean, businesses are closed, people were laid off. I like that idea. I like the walking path and probably some paving. But it doesn't take much to use up to 600, whatever it was, $768,000.
Nope, doesn't take long to eat that up.
No, it gets really exciting when these things get announced, and then when you easily compile a list of over 3 million,
Yeah,
Nice.
no, I just kind of did some adding up of what I would prioritize, and it didn't take long. I had to cut one back for what I thought, so.
Okay, anything else, Conrad?
No,
Ron?
No, I think the information here is really good. I like the way it's like setting up the different options. And same thing, like the better bang for the buck. And if we can invest in something now where we reduce our costs in the future, I think that's definitely the key something to keep in mind too. I think the options are good.
Okay. Shall we just go through some of the suggestions, or do you want, does everyone had a chance to kind of go over the weekend and come up with some ideas? We can talk about it now, or we can just think about it and submit an email to Diana and go from there, whatever. What does everyone prefer?
Are there any questions or further information that anybody would be looking for what the list that administration generated?
Tell me a little bit about the pavement. How much the patching, to me, there's lots of holes around that I don't think are on the list. What was a reasonable stop? I know you could spend 700,000 on pavement, but that I read it through and I don't have it in front of me because I'm just using the screen. What was it? How much was it, the paving? One of the first steps.
Sorry, I think that we could clarify that where there's been utility, if you're talking about patches, as opposed to things like frost heave that appears after the snow melts. If you're talking about utility patches where we have cut, the goal this year was to get all of them done. And the places that have been noted in the list are the ones that didn't fit within the budget, either because they were current year ones that we're trying to get paved in the same year. So I think at this point, if the extra funds for utility patching was approved, we would be left with one utility cut not paved when the paving project this year is done, but I'm not sure I interpreted your question correctly.
What would $700,000 or $100,000 worth of paving do to the paving budget? How far down the list would it take us?
Well, I'm
Not-
just looking at
Not
the
terribly,
add-ons.
because we've picked out places that there wouldn't be a whole lot of utility work that's also associated with it. So the discussion, I believe, at around budget time was for a significant investment in utility work to be able to get to the paving. And so the places that have been proposed as options are options that could either easily be investigated, like the one block on 2nd Avenue, You could investigate the service lines or say the block on Third Avenue that Rocky can correct me if I'm wrong, where we don't have service connections in that block. So we have been a little bit limited just with the unknown of the shape of the utilities, but I will let Rocky speak a little bit more.
But I think
So
just for
on-
this year, there's an extra for 2020, a $59,000 project and an 11,000 project that's been identified. So
Yes,
there's
yeah.
70,000 that's got to be spent this year.
We're proposing that hasn't been approved though.
Yeah, no, I'm just
But-
saying though.
I thought
But,
75,000 came to mind when I talked about the pavement, but
Yeah.
you're really close, Conrad, when you add those two, that we didn't have a contingency. So to do what we need to do, they're going to be coming and asking for about 75. Is that a number?
7-0, but you're right, Glenn, it's 70.
But it's for the intersection of Third Street and Third Avenue East has
We do
also been
have Rocky
identified.
on the line if you'd like him to talk. He's just not on video.
Yeah, so for that intersection, 3rd Street East and 3rd Avenue East, the cost is 11,000. Like last year when we planned this project, at that time, that intersection didn't seem that bad. But now if we dig both on 200 block and 300 block, then I think we should also dig that intersection, third intersection, because that's now that doesn't seem to be in that good shape. So other than that, the other $59,000, they're just all the additional utility patches. There are just 2 spots that included to fix the frost heaving spots. But other than that, all the other, they are just utility patches.
Okay.
Yeah, my read of it is that 70,000 is almost a requirement. Otherwise, we're gonna have to fund it some other way anyway. And after that, yeah, it's incremental.
Okay.
And
On
it-
on the list, there's 59,000. So there's 70. There's about 105,000. There would be sorry, there's
131,000 is what I come up with.
Yeah.
Additional paving.
So if you did, because there's the spot milling and paving on Highway 55 for 39,000. If you wanted to do an asphalt overlay on the concrete at the 3-way stop, that's 35,000. The additional excavation on 3rd Street East is 11, and then the increase to the utility patches to get the vast majority of them done would be 59,000. And then there's the possibility of increasing the scope as well to do one of those 3 blocks sort of thing at different, very, very different prices. So there is, I think about 140,000, I think is what the mayor said, in possible paving that could be accomplished this year without utility work.
Yeah, I think 131 is what I saw.
Okay, so thank you for that number. It didn't take long at all. 131 for paving, almost required.
I would
When we-
think the biggest question in that list would be the overlay of the concrete, because that is a little bit more questionable of a treatment, and it was a suggestion, but we were probably less certain on that one than we are about the other options.
And it's 30,000.
Yeah, it's
30
35.
34.
35, 34, yeah.
If we had a
What
better
happened?
than 34, that could be delayed.
It happened with Big Four. They were doing that cement tests on those cement aprons there.
That was when
Um,
both Rocky and I were gone, and we are looking into it because I believe it happened when we were both gone last summer.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things we discussed when we compiled this list, was if there was a treatment to do on the concrete.
I'd just be a little worried that pavement would start slipping on that concrete. So, I mean, they do them on bridge decks like that, but sometimes they have some not so good luck when they try to attach it to pavement or to concrete.
That was one of the discussions that we had as well, but
Yeah.
when we recapped Railway a number of years ago, we had the mills actually cost share in the project. I was wondering if the city would consider maybe approaching the 3 mills to see if they'd be willing to donate any money to cover the cost of rehabilitating that intersection.
That's when you put the pavement there, eh, Richard?
Well,
I
whatever,
mean,
you put- whatever
concrete.
you put on, yeah.
Yeah, the concrete, not the pavement, yeah. the
Well, we
concrete.
did the pavement too. It was a complete.
Yeah, but that concrete was, I mean, I don't know anything about concrete, but it looks like it's fairly solid yet. It's just the parts of it have sort of settled and you get the bumpiness through there.
Yeah, just in between the connections.
The
there,
crack.
but I
Yeah,
think the base is fine.
yeah, it seems like it's held up well.
Yeah, and actually I think Rocky could comment more on this, but the asphalt base of all of Highway 55, like it's a very thick and strong base.
Yeah, the thickness of the asphalt is about 250 millimeters, the asphalt thickness there.
Okay. I do have a question on Highway 55, all the spot milling and paving. Why is there so many little dots on there? Like, why is there so many areas? Is it because of just failing pavement, or, sorry, I'm not a road builder.
It's just like lots of like small spots. So here I have a list of all the spots there. So a lot of the spots they're not too big. So that's why there's like so many dots. Like each of these dots represents like one spot.
And
Okay.
and I think they're indicating spots where there's some failure, and the option was presented to mill and pave these as opposed to doing a full overlay that's upwards of $500,000 to do an overlay of Highway 55. So the thought was that if we spent the money and did the milling of these various different spots, there's quite a number, you're right, Mayor, that it would save us a few years before we have to look at doing a full overlay
Full
of
recovery,
asphalt, which is significant.
because I'm just looking at, just Highway 55 is like 73,000, right? Just over 73?
If you
They
did
put-
the treatment on the concrete,
Oh, that's with the overlay.
Including the concrete.
yeah, there's 15, I believe if I have it pulled up correctly, there is $39,000 in spot mill and pave on Highway 55, which would include all of those dots except for anything at the three-way stop on the concrete.
Okay. So I think, would it be in council's favor to check to see what the outcome of the test spot that Beg 4 did? And just see it, was it good? Was it not good? Comparable in price? And if Conrad mentions that sometimes pavement doesn't adhere to concrete very well, I'm thinking the 34,000 to put pavement over that concrete might not be a good plan.
Yeah,
All
and
depending on the response from what we could get back from Beg 4 on, and maybe Rocky could have a discussion just to see how that worked out.
yeah, we can follow up with both Peter and Beg 4 about the test pilot that they did last year on the concrete, which was for a different treatment, and see, and then we can ensure that if that is determined to be a better option than the asphalt overlay, that we bring that back in its place for council to decide.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, I'm good with that.
Yep.
Does anyone have any concerns with that?
Oh, that's good.
All right. So I don't think we need to go through step by step on the recommendation. We've got some ideas. If anybody comes up with anything different, maybe just shoot Diana an email, and then we can discuss it a little bit further at our next meeting and make a decision.
Yeah,
Best of
and
luck.
definitely if there's any information that isn't included on any of these projects that you'd like to see presented, then please let us know as soon as possible and we will try and get the information.
I had one other question about the snow blower. I was just wondering if we have the trucking capacity to handle it. Would it be able to keep up? Would the trucks be able to keep up with the snow blower, the size that you're looking at? Or-
So there would possibly be some downtime. We did, there was a discussion in 2018 for the 2018 for the 2019 budget. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, for the 2019 budget. And council said, let's try and rent something and test it out. And we did manage to do that. And we figured out what the time saving is loading it with the loader versus with the trucks. What we did find is that in really heavy events is when we might bring in some extra contractor trucking capacity, but definitely vastly sped up the haul off process. We don't have an up-to-date quote on that. So we have the quote that we had when we discussed it in for the 2019 budget, and we've added a certain percentage on, but it's one of the ones that we hope to get a firmer price on. So I can't guarantee that we'd always be able to keep up to the trucking capacity, but the 1 or 2 times that we used it early in 2019, I want to say it was, we did bring in some contractors where necessary.
Yep. And I think it's a lot safer than having a wheel loader and backing up and loading the trucks and backing up. It looks safer, so.
It definitely is not like we're not our staff is not maneuvering around vehicles and stuff like that. So it's definitely safer. But the biggest comment that we seem to receive about snow clearing, and not that we can't improve without spending $115,000, but is the amount of time that the snow remains on the street windrowed, and this would speed that process up of clearing it off for sure.
That was going to be my comment a bit, of sort of the two things that seem to be front and center always is, I mean, there's potholes and paving, but the other one in the winter is snow removals and these ridges that end up being left in the middle of the streets that are very inconvenient and probably somewhat dangerous at times. So I'd like to see some numbers on this one nailed down, because I think the potential is you know, if we're talking equipment, this would be my #1 priority.
If you're gonna get prices too, make sure that they're pricing out the right weight of snow blower for the loader that they plan on putting it on. Like, don't go out and buy something for $115,000, bring it here and find out the axle rating on that loader won't handle it.
And we had the discussion that we have a new loader since we had this discussion too.
Yeah.
So that was, we did say we needed to get a new quote.
And then I think a lot of that should be self-contained, but some of them need a hydraulic pump that runs off the loader. So you've got quick couplers. You got to make sure that the hydraulic pump on the loader has got enough capacity to run that snowblower.
Yep.
And one other thing I would just mention, like you're looking at a sanding truck. Like, I mean, there's other options, like depending if you wanted to utilize, like that sanding truck would just get utilized in the winter and that's it, right?
Yeah, so and Public Works did present an option of buying
A slide in snow. Yeah.
and getting then a used truck, but we didn't have the firm numbers on that. So
Yeah, so I mean, that would be one of your options. You could probably look at a used tandem truck and get a slide-in spinner, like Branders use it, lots of cities use it. So you get utilization of that truck 12 months of the year.
and I want to say that it was significantly cheaper. It was in the $50,000 range for that, I think. But
Well, depending on the type of spreader, I mean, there's a brand name one that's between 60 and 80,000 for a tandem truck. There's knockoff ones too, but I think it's the Slowpoke spreader, or E-Poke spreader is the top of the line, but you pay for it. So.
Okay. Anything else to add? Ron, do you have anything to add on there?
No, I like the idea of that, just to speed up that snow removal process and safety. So it's a good idea to be up in the forefront.
Diana had one question. What's a sprinkler trailer? Project 3B under protective services. Page 47.
Sorry, I'm having to zoom in a little bit. Just a minute. I honestly don't know if I have the answer. I'm not an expert on all fire equipment, so I don't know if Jessica has more information, if this was something that was discussed at budget time.
I think it was sort of for more rural fires suppression, I think, from what I remember
For
reading.
wildland.
Wildland fires, yeah, what I remember reading about it.
So I'm thinking it's a water trailer where you would pull and be spraying like for grass fires and stuff like. I think our fire truck has sprinklers on the front of it, right?
On the rapid response?
No,
No?
I'm thinking this is on the main truck. On our main truck, they have sprinklers on the front that they would drive across a grass fire spraying water out the front. They used to
Oh.
have it on their old one.
Yeah, and there was some discussion about the proposals 3A and 3B about them being for wildland fires or for industrial fires. There was some discussion about whether there would be some justification to look to our partners as they might more uniquely benefit our fire agreement partners than they would maybe within the city.
Okay, does anyone else have anything to add? We're gonna move on. If we don't. So there's lots of information there. If you want to just keep it in the back of your mind, and we will have it in discussion for June the 8th. If something else comes up, just shoot an email to Diana, and we can do a little bit of work there and see where we're going to go with it. Okay, we're going to move on to long-term care bylaw.
I'll move that bylaw number 6, 2020, a bylaw to establish a long-term care facility levy be introduced and read a first time.
Okay, do we have a second for that?
Glenn,
Second by Glenn. Conrad, do you have any?
Well, my
Comments?
biggest thing would, if we gave this 3 readings tonight and it passed, and part of that funding we took, and let's say we backtracked on the municipal levy this year, what would happen with this bylaw that we passed?
I would recommend, if that is the way the council is leaning, to not adopt this bylaw and will delay sending out tax notices.
Okay.
If you're strongly
But-
leaning towards not charging the long-term care levy this year, we shouldn't pass the bylaw. And it's going to be way more administratively difficult to take it back once we've sent out those notices.
Right.
Why don't we just defer this until we,
Well, we
You
can.
you can give it
we can
second.
just give it the first.
reading,
We
you
can just
just
give it the
wouldn't
first
give it
reading
second
tonight.
to reading and adopt it.
Yep, we can just give it the first reading tonight, and that can be discussed when we decide what we're going to do with some of the MEP funding. But if we choose as a group that we're not going to take back or charge the long-term levy, then we can just defeat this bylaw when it comes to the second and third reading.
or change the implementation date. Maybe.
Oh, we'll just
Yeah,
delete
correct.
that.
We do this every year.
Can you say it, Richard?
I said that would still delay the tax notice mailing, so I'm in favor of passing it as it is.
We usually do like to we're pretty much chomping at this point if we need to get tax notices out, but the other thing I would note is that we also changed the deadline, so.
To pay him.
But I think there'll be a certain percentage of people that will pay their taxes as soon as they get their notice anyways.
That's our hope.
Okay. That's the hope. Any other discussion before we vote on this, what we have on the table? Okay, all in favor of giving it first reading tonight? Anyone opposed? Okay. Do we want to send it to second reading, or are we just going to hang tough?
I think we should wait.
Okay, we'll just keep it at the first reading for tonight then, and our discussion with MEP funding will, we can make a decision on this at our next meeting in June. Okay, is there anything else to discuss before we move on? All right, we do have a couple of things to discuss in camera.
Sorry, Mayor Seymour, I
Yep,
actually did manage to, Rocky was on mute when Councillor Levesque asked his questions, so he typed me a message that I didn't see until now. But the
okay,
answer to the questions about the spot on 110 9th Avenue East and the utility patches associated with Sask Power or Sask Energy digs is that 50% of the dig on 9th Avenue East at 110 9th Avenue East is being cost shared. And that there are three digs done by Sask Energy that we will be paving as part of our paving project, and we will be billing Sask Energy for them.
okay. So it's 50, the city is paying 50% and Sask Energy is paying 50%, is that what you said?
I think at the 109 9th Avenue East is perhaps that the homeowner is paying half and we're paying half.
That's correct.
Okay,
I'm not sure why we'd be cost sharing that, but anyway.
Rocky, can you speak to why it's
Yeah.
cost shared?
That's because the condition of the street. So if it's a new street that has been dug and then we are paving, then the developer or owner would pay 100%. But if the condition is not, I guess, say if it has 50% of the value in place, then if that spot is dug and we pave there, then I guess for the new pavement, I guess since the pavement that was damaged that had 50% of its value retained, the owner would pay 50% and the city would pay other 50%. That was the idea.
Right, I remember seeing something like that. That was a bylaw, wasn't it?
so sorry.
It was in the bylaw, yes.
Yeah, I believe it was in a bylaw.
It's the
Yeah.
excavation bylaw.
Very
You're
complicated.
good with that? Richard, you're good with that then?
Yeah,
Sorry, that's one less email I have to send tomorrow, so.
Okay. Thanks, Rocky.
Yep.
Anything else? Okay, looking for a motion to just move to a closed meeting for a couple of items.
I can do that. Here we go. City Council move to a closed meeting to consider following items: a matter related to the management of personnel, a matter related to contract negotiations, and 2 matters related to advice from officials.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Second by Ron, all in favor? Anyone opposed? And that's carried. Thank you very much for now. We'll just take a couple minutes.
Jessica, you'll turn the YouTube off.